morning. Good morning. Glad to see everybody fired up and ready to go. I am Stephanie Stewart. I'm one of our practitioners here, and I am just thrilled to welcome you to Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Dayton. Today is a very special day. For my heart, it's a very emotional day for me. So if this is your first time here, thank you for sharing your morning with us. A special welcome to you. If you look at your bulletin, there is a tear-off strip. If you would be willing to fill that off and drop that off over here at the Welcome Center after service. We don't abuse or sell your email. You will get a really great sort of midweek spiritual pick-me-up from Reverend Cece, though. Let's see. I will be giving our reading and invocation this morning. Our visual holder is Judy Nossmacher, and Lenza Smith will be helping me with the interfaith candle lighting. The candle lighting reminds us of the many sources of wisdom and truth available to us from all of the world's religious traditions. So, let's gather up our kids. Our kids are going to be with Carol Huseman today, from 5 to 10-year-olds are going to be with Carol today. If you will all join me now in consciousness, we say a blessing for our children and a blessing for our youth program. So here and now, centered in this place of peace, power, and deep, deep love, I say yes. I say yes to our children and their infinite light, their infinite joy. They are the truest expressions of the one that we can see here on any given Sunday. They are a blessing. We are blessed by them. And so I know that in addition to that, our youth service and our youth program is a blessing. That it attracts all of the people, all of the children, all of the ideas, and all of the resources that it could ever need. It is a place where we all grow together. And so it is.
So it is.
We light the first candle to honor Judaism. Every person possesses one valuable trait that cannot be found in any other. We light the second candle to honor Islam. If we are to emerge from the long shadows that can engulf us, we must talk with each other, come to understand each other, and renew ourselves and our perceptions of each other. We light the third candle to honor Christianity. The whole idea of compassion is based on a keen awareness of the interdependence of all these living beings, which are all part of one another and all involved with one another. We light the fourth candle to honor Buddhism. Unceasing change turns the wheel of life, and so reality is shown in all its many forms. We light the fifth candle to honor indigenous religions. Since the beginning, native peoples lived a life of being in harmony with all that surrounds us. It is a belief that all humankind are related to each other. Each has a purpose, spirit, and sacredness. We light the sixth candle to honor Hinduism. All differences in this world are of degree and not of kind, because oneness is the secret of everything. And we light the final candle to honor New Thought. Behind all is a unity. Permeating all is a diversity. Saturating all is a divinity. Today's reading comes from our founder, Ernest Holmes, in his book, Living the Science of Mind. The world is too largely governed by fear. We are afraid of this and that and something else. We are afraid of what has happened and what is happening and what we think is going to happen. Each one of us should analyze their own thinking to determine what is wrong and replace every fear and faith with confidence. Let's take this reading today into the silence and contemplate it for a few moments. So centered here, now, in this place of such infinite faith, of such infinite love, peace, power. I rejoice, I celebrate this time together, this coming together in confidence and in faith. I know that there is no fear here. That we all recognize that we are each part of the one. We see it in ourselves, we see it in one another, and we see it in this service. And we hear it. We hear it today from Russ. He is the divine conduit that this message can only come through. And I am so deeply, deeply grateful. I am grateful for all that are present, all that transpires, and all that we receive. And so it is. So I said today was a special day for me, an emotional day. I get to do a couple of things that I'm very excited about. The first is that I get to recognize the Volunteer of the Month. This volunteer was one of the very first people that I remember greeting me when I came here 10 years ago. He greeted a lot of you today. If you ask this person to do something, invariably they will say yes. He's the dirt man. He's got dirt on his boots, he's got dirt on under his nails. He's my friend. And I'm so excited to announce that the Volunteer of the Month is Gary Victor.
I think they have the wrong guy. See, she is the conductor today, so I'm the brakeman. So we're talking trains. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. So now the other thing that I get to do that I'm so excited about today. Our guest speaker is a fellow ministerial student, and he's dynamite. He's dynamite. He is very special. And I'm getting just kind of verklempt up here talking about him. Russ Legear is a student of Holmes Institute and an assistant minister in training at Cityside Church in Chicago, Illinois, under Reverend Mark Anthony Lord. His license is actually, his practitioner license was actually held here by Reverend Cece. He is one of our outreach practitioners, so please make sure you introduce yourself to him today. Russ most enjoys helping seekers in one-on-one sessions, find their beliefs that are out of alignment with God, and then shift them toward a greater experience of love, oneness, and abundance in their day-to-day lives. And I will tell you from sitting in class with him, he does it all the time. He does it all the time. I'm very honored to call him friend. Please welcome Russ Legear.
I'm getting a little... Is this on? There we go. All right, great. Good morning. I'm getting a little verklempt too. I'm not going to lie. That was like the best introduction ever. So thank you, Stephanie. And right back at you. I am just so grateful to be in class with you. And I'm so grateful to be here with you today, Greater Dayton. I've sort of been on the outside this whole time, and now I get to actually see you and be here with you and not just be on a video with you. And that just fills my heart. So I'd like to start us off today with a story. And this is one of my favorite stories because it's so ridiculous. And it's ridiculous for a very important reason. So once upon a time, there was a man who bought a house. And he's so excited. He moved into his brand new house. It had everything that he wanted, all the bedrooms that he wanted, all the bathrooms that he wanted. You know, that had a great garage, a great lawn, everything was perfect. And so he moves in, and he moves his stuff in, and he starts moving into his bedroom. And as he's moving in, he looks at the wallpaper on the bedroom, and he thinks, you know, I'm not terribly keen on that wallpaper. It's kind of ugly. Maybe I should tear it down. And so he proceeds to tear that down. And what does he find below that wallpaper? He sees this beautiful painting of a tiger staring right back at him. And he thinks, there's a tiger. And, oh, wait, it's just a painting, and it's actually kind of pretty. Maybe I should leave this up. Okay, so he finishes moving in, and that first night he goes to sleep in his bedroom with the tiger on his wall. And as he's starting to fall asleep, the tiniest seed of a thought enters his brain. And it's one simple sentence, and it is, that tiger is going to jump out of the wall and it's going to eat me. And that seed begins to grow, and it grows, and it grows. And pretty soon he realizes that he's just not going to get any sleep tonight because he feels like this tiger is going to jump out of the wall and it's going to eat him. And so the next morning, he, of course exhausted because he had no sleep, he resolves to move his bed into the guest bedroom. And he's thinking, surely this tiger cannot eat me if I'm in the guest bedroom. You know, how can it know that I'm in the guest bedroom? And so the next night he goes to sleep in that guest bedroom. And again, that thought is still there, kind of poking at his brain. And now it's grown a little bit more. Now it's become, well, tigers are actually kind of smart. And they have a really great sense of smell. And what if that tiger jumps out of the wall from that bedroom and finds its way into my guest bedroom and eats me in my sleep? And so yet another night, he gets absolutely no sleep whatsoever. So the third day, at his wit's end, completely exhausted from 2 nights without any sleep, he finally decides, I am going to set up my bed in my garage. And surely the tiger cannot get me in my garage, right? And so the next night, he's got his bed all set up in the garage. It's cold, it's dark, it's, you know, who wants to sleep in a garage, right? Well, apparently this guy did. And he starts to fall asleep in his garage. But now that thought that he'd been entertaining in his brain, now it's become, well, surely if this tiger is smart enough to jump out of the wall and find me in the guest bedroom, well, it's going to be able to sniff me out in the garage too. And then it's going to eat me in my sleep. And he gets absolutely no sleep for the third night. And that fourth morning, he wakes up in the morning. Well, he doesn't really wake up. He wasn't sleeping because he was freaking out about this tiger. He resolves finally, that's it, I'm done. I'm going to sell my house. The house that he loved. The house that was perfect for him, except for this tiger on the wall. So he sells the house. He calls up his realtor. He says, I need to sell this house. I don't care what the price is. I just need to get out. This tiger is going to eat me. And his realtor is thinking, well, you're okay, whatever. As long as I get my commission, it's all good. So he sells the house. And he sells it to this wonderful lady who has 20 cats. And she has 20 cats because it's my story. And I get to say she has 20 cats. And she moves in. And of course, she moves into the master bedroom and she looks on the wall. And she's like, wow, there's this painting of a tiger on the wall. But you know what? That might freak out my cats, so I'm just going to paint over that. And she lived happily ever after. So I tell that story because it's so ridiculous. And I tell that story because isn't that what we do in our lives? Yeah. Isn't that what we do when we create this story of, oh, there's this fear that I have, and the universe is out to get me. It's going to do something to me. It's going to make my life worse. You know, I know growing up, I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Can anybody relate to that? And when I discovered this teaching, the teachings that we offer here at Center for Spiritual Living Greater Dayton and through the larger Centers for Spiritual Living community, one of the most powerful things that I learned, and it really took me a long time to learn this, but I'm so glad that I did, is that we don't live in a universe that's out to get us. We live in a universe that is here for us. And moreover, that universe is a safe universe. I want to just sit with that for a moment and see if anything comes up when I say that. We live in an inherently safe universe. It's a universe that's here for us. It's a universe that wants only our good, wants only for us to grow and to become more of that good that resides within us. And of course, when I first learned that, I didn't believe it. I was like, who are you kidding? You know, there's war, there's poverty, there's famine, there's all of these things that we say are horrible, and they certainly are. There's certainly things that we don't desire. But as I dove more into these teachings, and really as I dove more into science, I started to really take that on, really to embody that idea that we live in a safe universe. And I'm going to tell you why I believe that we live in a safe universe. And if you'll allow me to get a little nerdy on you for a minute, the first thing that tells me that we live in a safe universe is actually the first law of thermodynamics. If anybody remembers science class, the first law of thermodynamics states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be reformed into something new. And that's very important because when we look at those core components that make up our universe, including us because we are part of that universe, then that means that we too are neither created nor destroyed. We simply are. We simply exist, and we always have existed. Perhaps not in this form. I may not have worn this body, but that consciousness, that energy that makes us up, we have always existed. And I'm going to continue to be a little bit nerdy here and say that if there's anybody here who's sensitive about your age, please don't be sensitive about your age. The reason being is that you are actually 13.8 billion years old, because that's how old the known universe is. So if the particles and the energies and the things, the stuff, the star stuff, as Carl Sagan would say, that make up your body, make up your mind, make up your consciousness, if that is 13.8 billion years old, well then you are too. And we actually all have the same birthday. How fun is that? So what that told me is that we are eternal beings. And that's the first thing that I want you to take home with you today. Because when we are able to really embody the idea that we are in fact eternal, the game changes. Because if you're an eternal being, what could truly harm you? Just think about that for a moment. If you're an eternal being, what is it that could ever cause you harm? You have always existed, and you will always exist after today. I mean, that's pretty big. That's pretty huge if we can just embody that one point. And what's so cool about that, too, is the fact that even though we are eternal beings, we are ever changing, too. Remember that first law of thermodynamics says that our consciousness, if it's energy, is also something that can change. That's one of the teachings that we teach, is that if we change our thinking, we change our lives, right? So we have a choice on how we want to be in relationship to this fundamental law that we are, in fact, eternal beings. The problem, and the big but, comes in, of course, when we are entertaining those fears in our lives, those stories, those tigers that we paint on the walls of our consciousness. That's when things start to get a little funky. And we start to tell ourselves stories and more stories. We start to allow our ego, which is just trying to keep us safe, to start driving the bus of our life. And I can tell you that the ego has one job and one job alone, one true job, and that job is simply to allow us to interact in this world of form. It allows us that great I am that's within us that knows that we're aware. It allows us to walk forth into the world and to, talk to Stephanie and talk to Reverend Cece and to interact with each other and to mow our lawn and to do things in the world of form. That's what it's actually meant to do. What we instead allow it to do is we give it our power and we allow it to start building walls, because our ego decides that, oh, wow, it's a really scary world that we live in, and I really got to keep him safe. Because he might get eaten by that tiger, or he might fail. He might come up here and give a talk and nobody will like it. Like those thoughts come up, right? And they hold us back. Their very purpose is to limit us from being in our true potential. At some point in our evolution, I'm sure that those fears actually had a purpose. There was a time in our evolution where there was a tiger that was gonna eat us, and absolutely, yeah, that tiger's chasing you, you can go running. But today, how often are we gonna see a tiger? And if we are, it's probably at the zoo, right? You know, they're behind some bars and they're just chilling out, and you know, that's as close as you ever get to something that's actually going to try and eat you. But because those parts of our brain haven't evolved yet, you know, they're still kind of stuck in that idea that there are things in this world that would cause us to cease to exist, then the ego decides that it's got to build these walls. It's got to build these walls that hold us back, because otherwise we might get into a sticky situation that we don't want to be in, and then we're going to cease to exist. And it's really huge. It's really huge when we can realize that, when we can understand that the ego is just misinformed in these instances. Our work becomes then to reorient our relationship with the ego. Because what have we done? We give the reins over to the ego and we let it drive the bus. The reality is that we were always supposed to be the conductor. We were always supposed to be the one who's driving the bus. I know Stephanie's definitely the conductor today. That's how it's supposed to work. And I can tell you that when it does work that way, life completely transforms. That's the moment when we start to really truly embody, not just think up in here in our head, but really embody in our heart the fact that we live in a safe universe. Because when we are able to tap into that great I am that lives within us, that part that's eternal, that part that is made from pure love, that is truth, that is power, that is purpose, that is what moves us through life. And then the ego has no choice but to be subservient. It has no choice but to move back to its original role and be like, all right, what do you want to do? That sounds cool. You want to go be a minister? That's great. You want to be a practitioner? That's great. Let's go do it. You want to go play music? That's great. Let's do it. When we reorient that relationship with our ego, truly magical things happen. And I don't want to be one of those spiritual people who comes up here and say that you got to let your ego die, because I actually don't believe that. I believe that as long as we're in this world of form, that our ego does have a purpose to serve. But I think the idea of the ego death is actually that reorientation, that shifting of duties in our consciousness. So how do we do that? Well, it's not easy. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you that it was easy. I wish there was an easy button that I could press here and we'd all be enlightened. That would be awesome. And then I wouldn't have to come up here and give talks or anything like that. But it's not. It's spiritual practice. That's why we have communities like Greater Dayton, so that we can be in spiritual practice with one another. And we begin that practice, the first step is to cultivate an awareness of when those fears are appearing in our lives. And it's very simple. It's just wake up in the morning and say, today, I am going to be aware of whenever a fear is showing up in my life. And when that fear shows up, the first thing that you do is say, stop. Seriously, please stop. And that cuts off the fear, because really what that fear wants to do is it wants to start going into the story. It wants to start painting that tiger on the wall that's going to eat you. That's its job. It's just doing its job. There's nothing right or wrong about that. And once we say stop, then we have but one job. And that job is to simply sit back. You know, sometimes it even helps to physically take a step back as though you're stepping back out of that situation. And just look at it. Look at it not with eyes of judgment, but looking at it with eyes of discernment and curiosity. Oh, wow, there's this fear going on, interacting with this person. What's that all about? And because we are looking through those eyes of discernment, as opposed to eyes of judgment, there's no blame, there's nothing that's going to put that outside of you. What that does is that allows us to actually see the truth of the situation. And of course, we know that the truth will set us free, right? It's the truth that we need to see in those situations before we can actually let go of them. Because when we're judging them, when we're fighting them, that's the kind of consciousness and energy that we're bringing to that. Instead of defusing the situation and letting that fear sort of taper on off, we're adding more energy when we're judging. We're tensing up and just going, I don't want to feel this fear. Why am I feeling this fear? I'm a lesser person because I feel this fear. I shouldn't be afraid. All of these things go through our minds, and they don't help, do they? They just make it worse. Emmett Fox once said, whenever you are afraid of something, you are worshiping it. Whatever you fear, you bow down to and give it power. So this act of simply saying stop to our fears and then truly looking at them through, I would say, divine eyes, when we're looking at it, through that heart center within us, that part of us that is eternal, when we can do that, that shifts everything. Maybe not all at once, but like I said, as we make it a practice, as we move forward and do this every single day of our lives, we start to tear down those limiting walls that our consciousness has put up around our life. New possibilities open themselves up to us. New ways of being show up in our lives. And it's in that moment when we actually start to know and understand and embody the fact that we do in fact live in a safe universe. Ernest Holmes was famous for saying that we have to turn away entirely from the condition, but I'm here to tell you that while I absolutely agree with that, first you have to know where the condition is, don't you? Otherwise, how can you turn away from it? If it's playing itself out over and over and over without any awareness, how can you turn away from that? It's like I see Stephanie here, so I would turn away. I can turn away, but if I don't know where she is, then how can I do that? So, I'll begin to wrap this up here. What I love about this practice and this embodiment of what it really means to live in a safe universe is how powerful our lives become, how influential they become, how much more, centered in our community we can become when we do that. Because when we practice this, when we let go of these fears, which, by the way, you don't have to do alone. We have practitioners here, we have this whole community that if it feels scary, that there are people here that can help with that. When we do this, when we truly practice this and embody that idea of living in a safe universe, risks stop being risks. They become opportunities for us to deepen our experience of life. The world feels a little bit more safe, so we feel a little bit more open to be in the world instead of putting up the masks of what we think that society or our family or our friends think we should be. We actually become who we are. And that's what I want for everybody here. That's something that I try and work on every single day because, man, those masks are so stifling. They just don't work. And when I come back and I look at them, I'm like, why did I put that on? I looked ridiculous in that. And I just have to laugh about it. I really do, because, when we do see with those eyes of discernment, those eyes that are coming from that true part inside of us, those fears really do look silly. They really do look like a tiger that's just painted on the wall. The second thing that I love about this is that every moment of our life, when we practice this, becomes an opportunity to grow and learn. It becomes an opportunity for us to really better understand who we are in the world. I can tell you that who I am now versus who I was 10 years ago, I don't even recognize that guy. And that, I don't know what he was thinking, seriously. Most importantly, though, and this is even more important in a spiritual community, is we begin to become vulnerable. we let go of those defenses that create separation between one another for whatever reason, and they're not right or wrong, we create that separation out of ignorance of our true nature. When we become vulnerable, then that's when true community happens. That's when we know that anybody in this room is going to be here for me, is going to be here for me to love me and to help me walk on this path of spiritual evolution. You know, that's certainly what I've experienced being in this program with Reverend Cece, who I'm just so grateful that she is here and that she is one of my ministers. I collect a lot. I've got more than one because I need a lot, trust me. That's the kind of community that I have always envisioned, the one where defenses, why would we ever have them up? Because we don't need them, because we know that we are all eternal beings on the same spiritual path and we are all here for one another. Nothing can truly harm us. Period. There's nothing more than that. When we can cultivate that vulnerability, we make the lives, not just our lives better, but the lives of everyone around us better. And that, oh man, I think of what the world would be like if all of us were able to just let go of some of these fears that hold back the truth of our being, even just a little bit. I see the world transforming. I see it becoming something bigger, something more inclusive, something more vulnerable, which is a good thing in my mind. I see less war, I see less poverty, I see less fathom, because then we're able to see the person sitting across from us, as just a different face of that same divine essence that's within us. And how could we harm something like that? So I'd like to have you guys practice that a little bit right now if you're feeling willing. I'm going to invite you to go ahead and close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Let's take a nice deep collective breath and just breathe in, breathe out. And direct your awareness down to that space in your chest where your heart resides. And just send your breath to that heart space. And as you allow that warmth, that love, that light that is at the center of your being just flow through you, I invite you to imagine what your life might look like if you lived it completely free from the shackles of fear. What are you doing in this life? How does it feel to live this life? And just drink it in. This is who you truly are. This is the life that you can have if you just let go of this fear. So why don't you go ahead and come back to this room. When you feel ready, go ahead and open your eyes. I'll just close with this quote from my man Ernest because I love it, and it's probably my favorite Ernest Holmes quote ever. You are an eternal being now, on the pathway of endless unfoldment, never less but always more yourself. Life is not static. It is forever dynamic, forever creating not something done and finished, but something alive, awake, and aware. There is something within you that sings the song of eternity. Listen to it. Thank you. Oh, I'm going to pray. Sorry, I forgot I'm doing the prayer here. Logistics. All right, so let us turn within. And I invite you to stay in that sweet space that sweet space of pure potential that you were just playing in. And here and now, I just take this moment to recognize the one mind, the infinite mind, this presence and power, this thing that I call God that I know is so much more than just that name. I know that it is love, I know that it is life, I know that it is absolute truth, absolute joy. I know that it is the one and only the one. And I know that each and every person here, including myself, are one with God. That each of us is living that divine life here and now. I know that each of us is love incarnate, and that we are the very essence and nature of freedom. And so knowing this and recognizing this, I simply say here and now that we are free. That each and every one of us here is free. Free from whatever was holding us back from being that divine I am that is within us. I let that go. I just let that go. That anything that was holding us back, I just let it go back into the nothingness from which it came. And I know that in the space that is created, there is a rebirth, an unfoldment, a deepening of the connection to the divine in whatever form it takes for each and every one of us right here and right now. I know that that is so. That we are able to effortlessly and purposefully walk through life completely free from those shackles of fear. I know that we are able to walk through life as our true and most authentic selves. I know that we are able to walk through life as who we are, period. I know that this is so, and I know that it is good. And I am just so grateful to know that each of us is stepping forward into a new experience of freedom right here and now. And I am so grateful for the fulfillment of this prayer. I simply release it with love into the action of law. I know that it is done and I call it good. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you.
Just a thread, a simple thread in this glorious web of life. Free
So now we have an opportunity to give to the work of this community. Our community is all about transformation for ourselves and for those around us. We love and support each other during the tough times and celebrate and love each other through the good times. So please take your offering in your hand or in your heart and affirm with me. I know the activity of abundance in my life.
I know the activity of abundance in my life.
And in this center.
And in this center.
I give and receive generously.
I give and receive generously.
From this everlasting flow of good.
From this everlasting flow of good.
And so it is.
And so it is.
All right. Okay, a few announcements. So it is time for our 8th annual Cooking with God fundraiser. So you just created an event. Wait, that's not today. Okay. Just creating an event that is fun and involves food. It can be chocolate, 4-course meal, whatever, anything in between. For as many people as you want, you set a date and time, and then we'll take it from there. Clara will take it from there, and I will support her in the office. Mostly saying, go, Clara, go. So you host the event, people donate to the center to attend, and everybody makes some new friends. It's a lot of fun every year. So please turn in your events through next Sunday, April 15th. Sunday, April 15th. Next Sunday we need to have your events in, okay? And then we'll let you all know what you can choose from. If you would like an intuitive spiritual reading from our own Carol Jackson, there's a sign-up sheet right over here in the Welcome Center. I've had several from Carol, and she is amazing. And a big part of her fee, she donates it back to the center. So it benefits all of us. If you don't have a name tag, if you aren't one of the cool kids, you don't have a name tag and you want one, please sign up at the Welcome Center. We'll make sure that you get one. We use the name tags for several reasons. It lets us get to know one another. It lets those of us who can't remember names very well not embarrass ourselves. So it really helps. Please get a name tag, wear your name tag. If you think I haven't signed up for one, go check. I may have found your name and said, oh, they come a lot. So.
Where do we put them when we're on the way out?
Is the basket back there? Is the basket on the table? Yes, there's a basket on the table. Please just take it off and put it in the basket on the table. Thank you, Clara. Today after service, there will be a hike at Charleston Falls at 2 p.m. We are meeting in the parking lot at Charleston Falls at 2 p.m. If you have questions, see our Volunteer of the Month, Gary Victor, or you can see Kelly O'Keefe. Okay. So there is also a sign up for the Earth Day potluck. It is right over here. You have a flyer in your bulletin explaining the Earth Day potluck, so please sign up to bring in some food to share. And there are lots of other upcoming events in your bulletin, so make sure you have a good look at that today.